Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. This is huge news, and it's a paradigm shift in American politics. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. You will hear Elon Musk allude to the arrest of potentially billionaires who are possibly backing a very orchestrated, financed, and planned, how do we call it? Let's just try to be as responsible as possible. These are demonstrations, and you will hear from Elon Musk in a second. These are demonstrations that are orchestrated and financed, very likely by wealthy individuals, possibly billionaires, that are propping up the Democratic Party's public relations machine. This is an example, really quickly, of American media. Newsweek: Elon Musk vows to prosecute anti-Tesla protest organizers. Time to arrest. Even that headline doesn't give the full context, but it's better, infinitely better. The Newsweek headline is infinitely better than MSNBC News. Ahead of Tesla protests, Musk threatens his company's critics. No, wonderful MSNBC News. These aren't simply critics. These are possibly individuals, possibly non-governmental organizations and political action committees, and people committing major crimes, fomenting unrest and criminal behavior. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat. I can't do this without you. Let's get started. You might see billionaires being arrested for funding criminal, possibly funding potential criminal activity.
Elon Musk visiting the CIA alongside Director John Ratcliffe to discuss how Doge can make the agency more efficient. He also dropped by the Five to discuss what Doge efforts.
I think the most we're actually throwing the Molotov cocktails. They are the foot soldiers, right. But we need to go after the generals, and we're going to do so. The president has made it very clear that we're going to go after those that are paying and organizing these violent attacks. And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Fox News.
You heard it from Elon Musk, ladies and gentlemen. They know, according to Elon Musk, according to the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, according to Kash Patel and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they know exactly who is funding possible criminal activity on a nationwide scale. So this is not a grassroots. Nothing the Democrats have is grassroots. The grassroots they used to have in 2015, 2016, maybe, was like single-payer healthcare. There's nothing organic that takes place within the Democratic Party. It's funded. You have billions of dollars given to organizations to lower the cost of a stove, heating, a pot of coffee or a soup. It's like you don't need billions of dollars to find ways to make a house greener and more energy efficient. It's almost certainly the most legal form of graft we've ever seen. But that's just one example. Okay, you have USAID completely scrapped, used as almost a laundering, a place to potentially launder money. Okay, so it's like Elon Musk is not making this up. Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch, a whole bunch of people have been talking about this for years and years and years. Peter Schweitzer wrote Clinton Cash. We can go on forever. There's a lot of people who've been talking about this for years. Elon Musk and Doge and Trump finally have the receipts. But check this out.
That we're going to go after those that are paying and organizing these violent attacks. And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Fox News contributor and former FBI special agent Nicole Parker joins me now. Nicole, if we know who these generals are, as Musk says, how do we track them down and how do we prosecute them?
Well, first of all, you now have an FBI director, Kash Patel, and an attorney general, Pam Bondi, that are about enforcing the laws. And this type of behavior will not be tolerated. This type of violence is unacceptable. And I think what's shocking to many people who are involved in these violent acts is that many of them were likely involved in around 2020, and there was no consequence. They were doing similar actions in similar groups. And this time, no, that's not going to happen. So what's happening is Kash Patel, FBI Director Patel, has put together a task force to conduct investigations into this, and that's what FBI agents will do. They will get in there, they will see the crimes, they will do full investigations, and like we always said in the FBI, you follow the money. The money does not lie. The bank records don't lie. The flow of money does not lie. And I think that Elon Musk absolutely is correct that if this is being funded, they will get to the bottom of it. They will discover who it is. And, you know, there might be individuals that are the foot soldiers that are just executing the plans, but the people behind the scenes that are funding it, they're the ones that they're going after. And that's what corruption is all about, is getting to the root of the problem. And that's what a solid FBI will do. It's not enough to just go after the person that's throwing the Molotov cocktails. It's got to be who is the planner and who is the funder.
It needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. So good luck to the FBI solving it ASAP. Meantime, Attorney General Pam Bondi is directing federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty.
So this is, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the part where Elon Musk says, I hope they hear it. You cannot fund potentially destructive demonstrations, or the First Amendment does not allow funding of an organized attempt at intimidating and ruining a company or intimidating Americans across the country. That is not allowed under the First Amendment. And Democrats and wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberals, mainly the far left, or you want to call them, not even progressives. These are, like, for example, the left has no policy, no real value system. So they say, oh, well, the Affordable Care Act is the best thing that ever happened. Then they champion a potential murderer who took the life of an insurance company CEO. And guess what? If you go to Open Secrets, AOC is funded by one of the largest healthcare insurance companies in the world. So, you have they're all over the place. It's only about power. It's only about intimidation. That's what happened in Trump's last year in office. I agree with why people peacefully demonstrated. But the rampant chaos and mayhem and property damage, billions upon billions of dollars. You had people throwing incendiary devices at law enforcement vehicles, not one mention by Kinzinger or Cheney or the January committee. Hundreds of officers being injured, possibly thousands throughout the country because of confrontations with absolute maniacs that Democrats tried to bail out of jail. But you had thousands of people arrested, and you had billions in property damage. You have, 19 lives lost, curfews in every major city, and Democrats say, well, it has nothing to do with us. It's like, yeah, it did. Who was funding the plane tickets for people to go from protest to protest and possibly cause major property damage and inflict harm upon others? I mean, that's just one question. And then there was the Dobbs decision and all the destruction after that. These are obviously organized attempts to create the impression of a grassroots, but there's nothing grassroots in the Democratic Party. They cheated Bernie Sanders. They cheated Biden. They don't even have functioning primaries. So even if there was something grassroots, the person embodying that grassroots movement would be cheated. I mean, it's like you're talking about very highly educated people who are complete imbeciles. But let's continue.
We're going to go around the table and continue to ask some questions. So I'll start with you, Greg Gutfeld.
All right, Elon, great to see you, as always. I have two questions.
Yeah.
I have two questions. One, I've noticed in the past you seem incapable of being risk averse. If you see something you want to try, you try it. And so I'm wondering, what kind of advice would you give to a young person whose fear of failure keeps them from taking risks that would actually enrich their lives, whether it's career or personal life. And my next question is, when the hell are you doing my show? I've left voicemail messages. I've sent carrier pigeons. I get no response.
Well, I'll be happy to do your show. I've seen pieces of your show, and it's very funny. Actually, it's my style of humor, so I look forward to doing your show.
Awesome.
With respect to what to tell young people, I think it's always good when thinking about something that you're afraid of. When thinking about fear, look fear straight in the eye, and it will disappear.
Okay. All right.
I personalize the outer.
The nature of fear is that people don't look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it directly, and it will be gone.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good advice. All right, Jesse.
Jessica, look at me. Look at me. Face your fears, Jessica. Elon, how are you? I'm Jesse Waters. Good to see you. I'm not going to beg for you to come on my show. I know it'll happen eventually. You said the other day you uncovered some evidence that there was massive Social Security fraud and that arrests were imminent.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that? And what can you tell us about what you've seen politicians do to make massive amounts of money off of the federal government, like Nancy Pelosi? Please.
Yes. So we've encountered. There's really so much for it. It's deciding what should be prosecuted first, because it's such a long list. You have to actually prioritize the list. We convey the list to the Department of Justice. The DOJ has a process that they go through to review and think about it. The wheels of justice turn slowly. In fact, obviously, I have a maniacal sense of urgency. So to me, when I see that terrible fraud has happened, I'm like, why haven't we arrested someone already? But as the saying goes, the wheels of justice turn slowly but surely. And I think probably the person that stole 400,000 Social Security numbers, at least, maybe more, will be arrested hopefully this week. With respect to the non-governmental organizations, these sort of fake NGOs, I think there needs to be a number of arrests in that regard as well, because these are fake charities where mostly Democrats, I don't want to be clear. There's sometimes a little bit of Republican in there, because they sometimes throw the Republicans a bone to say, "Hey, be quiet about this." So that's where you start getting the uniparty thing going on. But it is overwhelmingly to Democrats, and they give give billions of dollars to NGOs run by Democrats that then go through a whole network of additional NGOs. It's a giant money laundering scheme. Really, at this point, I think.
So what did Elon Musk just say? It's a giant money laundering scheme. We knew this years back. If you were a lifelong Democrat and you supported Bernie Sanders, so I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Yes, you go from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump because you want to end endless wars and quagmires. You don't want to send Americans, men and women, to never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. You want record low poverty, which is what we had under President Trump's first term, and we'll hopefully have that soon. Might be rocky for the next year or so, but we had record highs in household median income. Bernie Sanders and Trump wanted to bring manufacturing back to the United States of America. Trump is doing that in part with the tariffs. Okay. Trump brought manufacturing back before Democrats shut down economic activity because of people who were eventually preemptively pardoned. So you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump for foreign policy, not if you obsess over one country in one region, but generally foreign policy. You want an end to never-ending military conflict. Okay, but the point is, in addition to a better economy for the working class that people care on the left seem to care so much about but do nothing for. They only want social safety net programs, but Musk is also making those solvent or ensuring they remain solvent. So Musk and Trump are the greatest liberal Democrats that liberal Democrats have ever seen, but they're 90s Democrats. But we saw, if you were a Bernie Sanders supporter in 2016, you saw the money funneling. You saw the money just like being wasted, like just opening up the faucet and all that money going down the drain because they purchased a Steele dossier with all the money that was given to Bernie Sanders, who was then promptly cheated and then never said a word because he's part of the same system he claims to oppose. Never defended the publisher and the journalist that revealed the truth that the DNC was cheating Bernie Sanders. So much truth that Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned, the DNC chairwoman. But all of that money, hundreds of millions of dollars, and then what they spent $3 billion in 3 months, $1.4 billion with Harris in 3 months. Where's all that money coming from? Grassroots? How much grassroots can you... Where was the organic support for Harris when Biden won his primary? Where was the organic support for Clinton when Bernie Sanders went from 0 in the polls to rivaling her in the polls? Well, the whole thing is a it's a potential money laundering racket of biblical proportions. And that's just on the political side. We're not even getting to the non-governmental organizations and the money that is funneled from USAID. I mean, this is called honest graft. It's Tammany Hall, but it's the 21st century Tammany Hall. Anyway, let's continue.
The word NGO and money laundering are almost synonymous.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you.
Makes sense to me. Kennedy?
Hello, Judge. And hello, Elon.
So Elon Musk's interaction with Kennedy could be legendary right now.
Welcome to the Five. Great to talk
Hi.
to you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the anti-Tesla violence. Your car company was...
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was a leftist dream come true. It was technologically advanced. It was the word of mouth was better than any car company, arguably, on the market. And now the left is trying to make it a pariah by tying their anti-Elon politics to violence. How do you talk the unhinged off the ledge? And how do you counter that violence that you're seeing at Tesla dealerships?
Yes, it is remarkable that there is so much violence. People have burnt cars, they've fired bullets into dealerships, they've scratched swastikas into Teslas of the innocent people that they're just going about their lives. They've done nothing wrong. And Tesla's done nothing wrong as a company. And so I find it ironic and incredibly hypocritical that the same Democrat politicians who would want to throw someone in prison for 20 years simply for watching things at January 6th, but not actually doing any violence, you don't hear a single word from them about the actual violence happening against Tesla. What incredible hypocrites they are. It's outrageous. I mean, really, this is fundamentally a case of terrorism. It's wide-scale domestic terrorism.
And that's how the Democratic Party, unfortunately, in modern times, rolls. There is no enthusiasm with the Democratic Party. There's no grassroots. I was a Democrat all my life up until 8 years ago. Okay? There's no grassroots. There used to be enthusiasm. There was never truly a great deal of passion within liberal politics. It was more of, okay, well, we think this is compassionate and just, and that's it. Then there was more passion, more grassroots. Then Bernie Sanders came along, and he was cheated. Anything the far left thinks they can achieve through the Democratic Party is a complete fantasy. The far left is utilized by the Democratic Party specifically to funnel votes back into a centrist corporate, Liz Cheney, Harris, Democrat, Republican, same type of politician. That's why you have Dick Cheney voting for Kamala Harris. They're the same political party. The Democratic Party and the Bush Republicans, the Never Trump Republicans, they're the same political party. Trump, Musk, Doge, Trump Republicans, different political party. The Trump Republican is different from the Liz Cheney Republican. The Liz Cheney Republican and the Bush Cheney Republicans are like fossils. They're essentially politically extinct. But Democrats like to pretend that they still are influential. But the Democrats, the greatest enemy of the Democratic Party is the far left. The greatest adversary of the Democratic Party is, leftist, communist, socialists, all of these people. It's the greatest enemy of the Democratic Party, but they won't tell you that. They will crush any resistance on the left, and they did that with Bernie Sanders. And then once they pacify the far left, they then either indoctrinate or convince, and then almost foment this radical vandalism and campaign, public relations campaign to pretend that there's this grassroots anger and rage over Tesla, but it's financed, completely fabricated, manufactured public relations spin that is paid for. There is no grassroots. They're not talking about Medicare for all, single payer, Green New Deal. In Green New Deal, they're ruining Teslas. What do they think? So if the far left ever, for example, created a political party to try and implement far left policies or ideology nationwide, it wouldn't be Trump. It would be the Democrats that descend immediately upon the far left. The greatest enemy of the Democratic Party is the far left, but they've managed through deceit to deceive people into doing their bidding, ruining Teslas, for example, creating this public relations campaign against Tesla and ordinary citizens driving Teslas, and they get the far left to vote Democrat. And that's the racket right there. But let's continue.
With the purpose of intimidation, and it's harming innocent people. It's really terrible. And I think what we actually have to get to are the people who are organizing and paying for these attacks and protests. That's who we really need to go after, because the people who are actually throwing the Molotov cocktails, they are the foot soldiers. Right. But we need to go after the generals, and we're going to do so. It's wide-scale domestic terrorism with the purpose of intimidation, and it's harming innocent people. It's really terrible. And I think what we actually have to get to are the people who are organizing and paying for these attacks and protests. That's who we really need to go after, because the people who are actually throwing the Molotov cocktails, they are the foot soldiers. Right. But we need to go after the generals, and we're going to do so. The president has made it very clear that we're going to go after those that are paying and organizing these violent attacks. And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Yes. And hopefully the prosecution will be for RICO and an organized criminal enterprise, which makes the penalties even more serious. And now to Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. These are serious crimes where the organizers and pushers of mass violence will go to prison for a very long time.
That's right. Okay.
And I hope they see this segment.
Well, we'll play it again. Jessica.
Okay, well.
So this is Elon Musk telling the world, this is I think, a moment in U.S. history now where you have a political party, and the Democrats, oh my God, they tried so desperately to make that terrible day in January a hallmark of the modern Trump Republican Party. That was one day. Democrats have done that they did that every single day, and worse and worse. There wouldn't be a building in D.C., God forbid, had Democrats or Democratic funded groups done what they did throughout Trump's last year in office. You had billions in property damage in Trump's last year in office, arson, CNN covering, and all these organizations, media is mostly peaceful. Well, then January in 21 was mostly peaceful too. I mean, using that absurd logic. But you had a CNN reporter in front of a building set ablaze. Oh, it's mostly peaceful as the building crumbles behind him in flames. And I mean, did anyone really serve any prison time? No. Democrats give tacit approval. Jimmy Kimmel gave tacit approval through a stupid joke. And they think they're protected under the First Amendment to try to, wink, wink, give these what they call dog whistles. They always use these terms. They get a Pavlovian, response when they hear these terms about Republicans. But when they actually engage in fomenting violence, which happens year after year, the majority of political violence and chaos comes from left of center. That's a fact. Then the rebuttal is, well, we have this data that shows the data didn't include, you imbecile, the data didn't include all the damage and arson and vandalism from left-leaning demonstrators in Trump's last year in office. Or after the Dobbs decision, churches vandalized and religious places, targeted. And now with Tesla dealerships, there's 3 major left-leaning Democratic Party-inspired widespread nationwide campaigns of violence and intimidation. Trump's last year in office, and I think what happened was absolutely an atrocity to George Floyd. It was an atrocity. But are Democrats going to then say, well, billions in property damage was justified and warranted because of that atrocity? And no Democrats even condemned it. And then after the Dobbs decision, and then you had 19 lives lost, 19 or 20, according to Wikipedia, in Trump's last year in office. Not one January committee person. Where was Schiff condemning all this violence? Where was Pelosi or Schumer? They don't condemn anything. It's so obvious the Democrats use political violence to their advantage, giving tacit approval and falling back on plausible deniability. It's not rocket science, my God. Although Musk is a rocket scientist, or he has rocket scientists with him. But let's continue. Listen to this again. This is legendary.
Because the people who are actually throwing the Molotov cocktails, they are the foot soldiers. Right. But we need to go after the generals, and we're going to do so. The president has made it very clear that we're going to go after those that are paying and organizing these violent attacks. And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Yes. And hopefully the prosecution will be for RICO and an organized criminal enterprise, which makes the penalties even more serious. And now to Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. These are serious crimes where the organizers and pushers of mass violence will go to prison for a very long time.
These are serious crimes where the organizers will go to prison for a long time. It's interesting to finally have somebody in government, so he's in government, in the executive branch, totally lawful and part of the Constitution. Finally, President Trump is standing up to, they call Trump a tyrant, Democrats, but Democrats are the most tyrannical, but they use bureaucracy to rule. The way Democrats work is they use bureaucracy and they use a Byzantine labyrinth of funding through endless government agencies and regulations and bureaucrats and non-governmental organizations to stifle speech, for example, to stifle innovation, to stifle growth, business growth. I mean, it's like the Democrats want a gigantic government, which is exactly what despots want. But they pretend not to be despotic because it's not one person. It's a political party calling the shots. Let's continue. This is really important. Check this out.
That's right. Okay.
And I hope they see this segment.
Well, we'll play it again. Jessica.
Okay. Well, liberal Tesla lover here.
I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Yes. And hopefully the prosecution will be for RICO and an organized criminal enterprise.
So with RICO, they tried to get Trump on RICO, and it's like, well, he had every right to speak to people about a results that he didn't think were fair or just. With this RICO, if they go after, like, let's say, a billionaire, billionaires might think, well, a billionaire potentially who possibly committed crimes might say, well, there's 100 levels, there's 100 different levels, layers of protection between me and the foot soldiers, the ideologues, the maniacs that I've fomented to key Teslas or do worse to dealerships. The problem, however, is that this is an obvious attempt, a nationwide Tesla takedown event aimed at ruining a company, okay, not and an individual for political reasons. They're going after an innocent employees of a company to ruin a man in politics that they don't agree with. This is the way Democrats roll. They don't have the alternative. They don't have the alternative or antithetical viewpoint. Oh, well, we want these policies. They're not going to say we want to keep a Byzantine labyrinth of honest graft and potential bribery and money laundering through USAID, for example. They're not going to actually say that. They're going to say, oh, my God, people are losing their jobs. They're not going to say, oh, well, we can simply pass foreign aid bills in Congress to replace all the good programs that USAID doesn't have anymore because of Trump and Musk. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to spend $20 million of taxpayer money for Sesame Street in the Middle East or $100 million plus for contraceptives. They're not going to write a bill. I hereby write this bill. I'm Bernie Sanders. Is there a Kabul? Is there a Walgreens or CVS in Kabul, for example? Well, obviously there isn't, so we have to spend $100 million on contraceptives to the Middle East. It's only fair. How on earth can they get contraceptives? So, Democrats, rally with me so we spend this taxpayer money on contraceptives in the Middle East. Or what about $20 million for Sesame Street? Why does Musk and Trump dislike big birds so much? So, let's go ahead and spend taxpayer money. Oh, what's that? I was told to be quiet. Okay, sorry. I'll do whatever you say. If you say jump, I'll say how high. I'm Bernard Sanders. I'm out. No longer speaking. Told not to speak anymore. So, they're not going to do anything like that. They're going to go and try to take down Tesla. They don't have an opposing political view. They just have rage and anger because they know that they know the party is over. The gravy train is over. The money laundering potentially is over. And they're so upset. But let's continue.
Which makes the penalties even more serious. And now to Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. These are serious crimes where the organizers and pushers of mass violence will go to prison for a very long time.
That's right. Okay.
And I hope they see this segment.
Well,
beautifully stated by Musk. And you watch the same Democrats who are championing the murderer of the health insurance CEO will be the same Democrats saying, oh my God, Trump has turned into Putin. He's jailing billionaires just like the Ruskies. they will defend the billionaires after championing somebody who took the life of, an insurance CEO, and they're all over the place. They're all over the place. And it's just, they have no value system other than attaining political power. That's what they want.
Well, we'll play it again. Jessica.
Okay, well, liberal Tesla lover here. My sister has 2 in her family, so have not thrown any Molotov cocktails recently. But I wanted to talk to you about what Doge has been doing. So you've been making cuts to a lot of the agencies that have open investigations and regulatory battles with your companies. At the same time, you continue to get billions in government contracts. Tesla gets billions in subsidies. How do you explain that to the American people?
Well, everything that Doge does is an open book. So I think the most transparent the most transparent organization in government ever. Every single Doge action is listed on the Doge.gov website. It's also listed on the X handle. So if anyone has a concern about any one of those actions, they can bring that up. They can raise that. And I do want to say, sometimes we make a mistake. Nobody bats 1,000. We will at times make a mistake, We'll act very quickly to correct it. I am under such an extreme spotlight, so much scrutiny, that it's literally impossible for me to get away with anything nefarious. And obviously, nor do I wish to. So this is a case where we have radical transparency. We're actually willing to admit that we do make mistakes. Often people are not willing to admit they make mistakes, but we are. But we want to emphasize we fix them quickly, and we're trying to do the right thing for the American taxpayer, for the American people. And I think history will be the judge that what we've done here and what we're doing is a very good thing for the strength and future of America.
Okay. So, Elon, for one last time, why don't you remind the viewers why the election in Wisconsin is so important?
So this is the, quote, grassroots of the Democratic Party.
200 Tesla takedown protests erupting over the weekend, with liberals smashing toy Tesla cars, hurling Nazi accusations at every Cybertruck they could find, and others busting out a Tesla two-step outside the dealerships, getting down to the
Tesla two-step. This is what the Democrats have devolved into. And yeah, okay, it was a 4-3. It was a 4-3 Supreme Court, and it's still a 4-3 Supreme Court in Wisconsin. But Republicans just got 2 extra Republicans in the House. I talked about that, but this is the Democrats. They're either doing stupid dances or destroying property. Definitely not passing any legislation meaningful to Democrats.
The electric slide. While their comrades burned down the electric cars, Elon Musk is still shocked by all the hatred.
There goes the respect and reverence for the environment. There goes all the absolute unmitigated hypocrites. Oh, the planet, the planet. Oh, how dare you. What you've done to the planet, humanity. Oh, what's this? Tesla bad? Okay, drive 50 Hummers, 20 semi-trucks. Garbage trucks, those cement-making trucks with the thing in the back, any coal-powered vehicles, anything. If you could make a vehicle that runs on coal, it's good, it's better than Tesla. Forget the environment, this is more important.
Isn't it shocking how much violence and hatred is coming from the left? I mean, isn't it supposed to be the party that they claim to be the party of empathy, and yet they're burning Teslas and shooting up dealerships and calling for the death of the president and me? I'm like, guys, this is insane. Like, they're gone psycho. It was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George. From me.
But who's actually got time to sing dopey protest songs outside a Tesla dealership? According to Business Insider, it's a bunch of liberal boomers who traded their tie-dye for NPR tote bags. Quote, I attended 2 Tesla takedown protests. One generation showed up more than others. I noticed that the crowds in Ann Arbor and Troy were primarily people over the age of 65, white and retired from jobs that depended on public funding as teachers, professors at local universities, and social workers.
Do you need a loan for your business? Well, if you've been around for over a year,
How many Teslas did you torch this weekend?
Toys or big ones?
Both.
None. I am happier to see the smashing of a toy, though, rather than the real thing. So I think we're making violent progress in all of that. And senior citizens are always the most engaged. They vote the most and they turn out to protest the most. So none of this is really a surprise. What was
It is a surprise because the narrative is that it's grassroots. But when you have former like hippies from the 60s or 70s or whatever, and they have nothing better to do than to go to a Tesla dealership and, what? Well, okay, yay, let's do the electric slide. Yay, bad Tesla. Oh, Ford? Is Ford bad now? Oh, Chevy bad? Oh, okay, BMW bad? You just give them a car company, they'll go. But I thought this was supposed to be, it's supposed to be grassroots. The Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders. The last time they had anything grassroots was Bernie Sanders, who extinguished any, flame of any grassroots or organic, political movement within the Democratic Party. They cheated Bernie Sanders, and he was basically probably a part of the whole racket from the beginning.
a surprise, though, was hearing Elon Musk, who is in Wisconsin because he's trying to buy an election there for a Supreme Court, blind
federal courthouse.
But Democrats don't care about billionaires Republicans have been talking about Democratic billionaires for a long time. Democrats ignore and then try to make this public relations spin that the Republicans are going after the ethnicity of the billionaire, which is completely absurd. Because I have the same ethnicity, and I also criticize the funding associated with certain billionaires or whatever. A criticism of funding has nothing to do with a person's religion or ethnicity. But the point, however, is that Democrats will always engage in this sleight of hand, this illusion, this magic trick, where they'll make people think that they're seeing something that they're not. And this has nothing to do with grassroots. This is a funded, organized attempt at ruining a company and intimidating Americans. And actually doing worse than that, possibly ending the lives of people with arson. So this is a serious, serious crime being funded, very likely by very, very wealthy, potentially very wealthy, and possibly liberal donors.
To Inauguration Day, where there was police vehicles and businesses set on fire, to Antifa attacks at Berkeley, riots at the Supreme Court after the Dobbs decision, the Atlanta Cop City. I could go on. I'm going to bore you. But this is who the Democrats are. They are haters. They use violence. They don't know how to use the courts in a way to protect their own rights. And it is disgusting. And the Molotov cocktails and everything they're doing is a violation of law in our institutions. And I hope that Miss Jasmine Crockett, I hope that she was happy with her day of action, because it didn't seem to come to much at all.
Greg, were you surprised by the level of protests? Shocked? Did you not care?
Well, I was out on Saturday. It was a beautiful day in Lower Manhattan. My family, my large family, we went out. We got breakfast. We walked through Soho with the dog and the baby. It was really nice. It was objectively serene. 6 blocks away, there was, I think, a protest at one of the Tesla dealerships, but I felt a million miles away because it makes me think. I like to get as close as I can to this human element, like what possesses people to fill up their lives with politics.
What possesses people is it's a new atheistic religion. It's an atheistic political religion. Okay, Mr. Gutfeld, I love you. Gutfeld's the best. It's an atheistic political religion. The Democrats, the far left, who are targeting Tesla with vandalism, arson, potentially ending the lives of people, with the potential of possibly, God forbid, ending the lives of people. Their God is social acceptance within their, digital, fantasy groups, within their social media groups, within their social circles in real life. The far left doesn't believe in any distinct political ideology. It's a political religion. They think that morality is tied to their political beliefs. They don't derive their viewpoint of good and evil from a cosmic view or from a biblical or religious or theological view that a God is watching and a God is going to say, yeah, you probably shouldn't have ruined Thanksgiving, or you probably shouldn't have disowned that family member or friend because of politics, because you know what? That family member or friend did a lot for you, or you could have, prolonged a friendship and, enjoyed a lot of great things together, but you ruined it because of friendship. So, you don't want to hurt someone or take someone's life, like the young man who took the health insurance CEO's life. That from a theological viewpoint is not allowed. Even if the health insurance CEO was committing a crime, these are the same people against capital punishment for the most heinous crimes you could ever imagine, and they're championing a young man who murdered a health insurance CEO. Okay. They're doing so. They don't have an actual specific value system. It's an atheistic political religion where morality is tied to emotion, and if the emotions validate the atrocity, then it's fine for them. And political power. They desperately strive for political power, which bolsters their atheistic political religion. They'll cheat Bernie Sanders, they'll cheat Biden, they'll harm Teslas while campaigning for the environment. They'll oppose the death penalty while at the same time championing that young man who allegedly murdered the healthcare CEO. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just whatever feels good at that moment for them to look in the mirror and pat themselves on the back so they could feel morally superior while at the same time actually being morally inferior. But let's continue.
And how can the resentment be so easily directed at a fresh cause? This is transient activism. It's 1 month it was against the police, then it's the Palestinians, then it's climate, now it's Tesla. The only thing you can do as a normal human being is kind of just gawk and just walk by. There's not a lot of these people. But I think the difference between the left and the right is that I would say since the late 1960s, the cry was, we're making politics personal, that the things that you vote for are reflective of who you are. So no longer could Republicans and Democrats kind of hang out together, play golf together, work together. The left, instead of focusing their dislike for the policy, they focused their hate for the person who holds that policy or holds that vote. Therefore, if you're a Trump voter, I can hate you. I can chase you in a subway and take your hat. Imagine living like that. So if somebody doesn't completely agree with you,
but they can't. Their arguments are easy to refute. So when they're actually confronted with information, facts, statistics that aren't manipulated to promote their ideology, they've invested so much of their identity to a political belief that is usually or almost always flawed, or not not as moral as they think, when they're confronted with the reality that they're wrong, the cognitive dissonance is like a shield for them. They cannot admit Trump was right about anything. If Trump and Musk said breathe and drink water and eat food, they would then come up with studies. Studies show that drinking and breathing air and eating food are bad. Experts say that, and so they have these sacred cows that they worship. Expert opinion that agrees with them. the appeals to authority that only agree with their political viewpoint. Any appeal to authority that doesn't agree with them should never have been born. They're not actually legitimate authorities. They cheated on their doctoral exams, all that. So it is a religion. These are zealots that if you commit blasphemy, heresy, and they will shun you, and it's like they've replaced the wonderful morally superior atheists left of center, and there's nothing wrong with atheism, but don't replace it with a political religion. They have replaced religion and a belief in God with an atheistic political theology or religion, where the gods are the gods are social acceptance or their own emotions. They worship their own emotions. They don't even adhere to any specific political ideology other than whatever makes them feel morally superior, because it gives them strength. Whereas the belief in a God and a religion gives people, billions and billions of people throughout the world, strength and sustenance and spiritual enlightenment. The wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats smearing bodily fluids on Teslas like actual animals. They derive spiritual sustenance, even though they don't believe a spirit exists or a soul exists. But they're wonderful, highly educated, morally superior, godless, soulless, wonderful, highly educated atheists who worship the actual feeling and emotion of feeling morally superior. So, and this man poor man is I love this guy, is like awesome. He's wearing looks like he's wearing a hat with the Tesla. I love it.
You hold resentment for everybody, and it can be easily targeted for anything. Someone once said, and I said this on Friday, you hate the sin and not the sinner, because the underlying belief is that we're all kind of basket cases. We all got problems, but you can see the problems. You can look at these people and you can go, this isn't about Tesla. This isn't about the climate. This isn't about the police. These people have underlying spiritual, family emptiness.
There's not only spiritual emptiness, they don't believe that a human being has a soul. An atheist, which is fine, you don't have to be, I'm not going to get into you don't have to believe in a God. You don't have to you can be agnostic. The smartest, most intelligent people I've ever met in my life are agnostic, but they're also just, whatever with politics. They have their viewpoints, but they're not going to disown friends and family. If you disown a friend or a family member, you don't go to Thanksgiving. You don't, you get into this rage, this mania when it comes to politics. You try to, key a Tesla car. This is something where they think they're gaining some type of spiritual sustenance. They think they're gaining some type of it's a spiritual sustenance where they confuse a moral stance. They confuse a vapid political stance with some kind of grandiose moral stance. That's why Democrats are always talking about morality. They're the 21st century they're atheistic televangelists. The Democrats are televangelists for a warped, distorted atheistic political religion that worships the emotion of feeling morally superior. They just want to feel morally superior. It's like Pavlov's dogs. They get like this salivating. It's a Pavlovian response to the feeling, the emotion of being morally superior. Well, but also they don't realize they're morally bereft when they're doing these things. So it's like this narcotic for them. They have to always, and they're cheating Bernie Sanders, and they're cheating Biden, and they're they're talking about the environment while not, passing Green New Deal and going after Teslas. We can go on forever. But it's an atheistic political religion that worships emotion, the emotion of feeling morally superior at the expense of actually being morally inferior.
And for them to just so easily fill up that hole with rage, with something, and as the judge said, it was whether it's the George Floyd riots or even like trans extremism, you can see that there is something definitely wrong with them.
Someone wrote a book about that.
What was the book called?
Get It Together.
Get It Together.
Oh, but I read that book.
Don't you find it interesting that once identity politics kind of like fizzled out, we now have a division by class? It's now a class.
So, if you believe in God, then I'm not saying that everyone should believe in a God. You can believe whatever you want to believe. And then the rebuttal is, well, I saw hypocrisy at the church or at the place of worship. And yeah, but there's no greater example of hypocrisy than today's far left or, liberal Democrats who, don't even have a functioning primary and go after Teslas while pontificating about the environment and talk about morality while they fund endless wars. I mean, there's no greater example of immorality than disowning friends and family, which a lot of liberal Democrats have done simply because of politics. These are the same people who are opposed to the death penalty but want to champion a young man who allegedly murdered a healthcare CEO. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no actual value system. It's just the attainment of political power for the political party, and it's a religion. Being a liberal Democrat today for a great many people who happen to be atheists is a religion. But see, with religion, no matter what the religion is, any religion states, essentially, when you take your last breath, okay, how you lived your life, how you treated other people. And Democrats will say, well, how you treat other people is dependent on if you support USAID. But USAID also had a money laundering scheme. Oh, morally superior genius. If you want to still fund the USAID programs that were scrapped by Doge and Musk and Trump, you can actually just write a bill in Congress and push legislation to continue giving medicine and food and health and hospitals to impoverished and war-torn areas around the globe. Why don't you just write a bill in Congress? No, we can't do that. We're the Democrats. We can't pass anything of worth. Okay, then what are you complaining about? You're a hypocrite. Then don't pretend that it's a moral vantage point, because you lack the political acumen to actually pass something that would help the people you claim to care about. But when Democrats disown friends and family, they're thinking, oh, I can't be seen with this person. I can't accept this person's belief. It's the antithesis of what I believe as a moral human being. It gets me angry. I can't listen to it. I can't, and so, but at the end of the day, if you actually believe that a God will judge you, in a way that, looks at things from a cosmic point of view, like, okay, you don't want to end innocent people's lives. You don't want to ruin people's lives. You don't want to hurt people. You don't want to commit destruction, damage, arson. You don't know whose life you're ending. You don't want to commit brutal You don't want to commit brutality on a personal, on an individual basis. You don't want to, end people's lives, because if you do, at the end of the day, your last breath, you're probably going to, there might be some repercussions in the afterlife, possibly forever, depending on what you do. And so, but the political atheist says, well, that's not going to happen. There's no evidence of that. Where are the studies? Where are the experts in the studies showing that there's, an afterlife? I haven't heard any studies, so no. But a religious person, or a person who actually values religion, will say, okay, I don't think God wants me to ruin someone's property because they disagree with me. I don't think that would be a good thing. If I go ahead and key a Tesla, or, target a dealership, I could potentially, if I target a dealership with arson, God forbid, could potentially, someone's life could be lost. All because I didn't like Doge cutting government spending. How does that work? How does that work? And so on a theological or cosmic viewpoint or biblical viewpoint, or where a God is looking and saying, hey, you know what, you probably shouldn't do that because you can hurt a lot of people, and you're not on this planet to hurt people, you're on this planet to help people. You just don't do that. You don't key a Tesla, you don't target a dealership with arson, because you can hurt people that you don't know, you can hurt people who don't deserve to be hurt, or going through really terrible things. You could make the world a worse place. And you're not on this planet to make the world a worse place. You're on this planet to make the world a better place and to be a better person. But that's not the way Democrats think. Democrats are like, I'm going to save this planet because I see a Tesla, and I'm going to key that Tesla. And as they key it, like chariots of fire, dun, 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 dun. All the partisans of years past in the 30s and 40s, they're looking at me now. Although I don't believe in religion, so, whatever. But, oh, look. Oh, I am, so moral and just. And it's a political religion. And then the feeling of being morally superior gives them spiritual sustenance, even though they don't believe in a spirit. I've been rambling more than I've ever rambled before, or, more than usual. Anyway, hit subscribe to the channel. I'll be back tonight around probably 8 p.m. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. I'll see you a little